Tornadoes, the most unpredictable weather phenomena in the world, and something that we are not a stranger to here in Southeast Texas. But even with all of the advancements in weather technology over the last 50 years, we are still not at a point where we can predict the exact storm that will drop a tornado and when it will happen. But we have gotten to the point where we can identify weather patterns that lead to tornado outbreaks and the time of year when they are most likely to occur. Now, in Tornado Alley, going from Oklahoma to Kansas and Nebraska, their tornado season typically peaks during the months of April and May, sometimes getting into the month of June as well. But for us here in Southeast Texas, it's a little more complicated than that. Behind me is a graphic showing the tornado frequency just in Harris County from the years 1992 to 2019. And you can see we share that big spike with Tornado Alley for tornado frequency during the months of April and May. But something else jumps out at you on this screen, and that is the secondary peak, which happens in the fall, getting into the winter months. We see a tornado peak going from October all the way through January. Now, even though November is the month, historically speaking, where Harris County has seen the most tornadoes in the last 20 years, our strongest tornadoes in the last 3 years alone across Southeast Texas have happened in the months of December and January. Flashback to January of 2023, the Deer Park and Pasadena EF3 tornado, a violent tornado that created a significant amount of damage. More recently, the Porter Heights tornado in December of 2024 and the Chambers County tornado that ended up tracking all the way into southwestern Louisiana, both of those also EF3 tornadoes. So we are not a stranger to seeing strong tornadoes here in Southeast Texas, even though it is an unusual phenomena. So while we can't pinpoint the exact storms that will drop these violent forms of nature, we can identify the weather conditions that lead to these outbreaks. And it all starts with the Gulf, our big source for warm and humid air, which is something that we're not a stranger to even in the months of December and January. Think about how many Christmases you've spent in shorts and t-shirts. Well, in the months of December and January, you've got a lot of cold air that builds up across the United States. And occasionally, if the jet stream can dip far enough south, those two air masses clash. And when that happens, an area of low pressure develops on the lee side or the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains. And if that area of low pressure, the center of energy, can dip far enough south and move across the state of Texas, you will tap into the wind energy from the jet stream and the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico to develop a perfect setup for severe weather. That's exactly what happened in January of 2023 when the Deer Park Pasadena EF3 tornado went through Southeast Texas. We go to Jason Miles with footages from the aftermath of that storm.
Both near and far. Sounds of recovery fill the air.
The sound of everything, the glass shattering, is terrifying.
But it's the tornado itself Crystal Thompson cannot forget.
Within 5 minutes of figuring out that it was headed towards us, it hit us.
She says she clutched her baby in an interior hallway alongside her husband and his mother.
My mother-in-law and my husband are covering me and the baby, and I'm just holding him. He's screaming.
This is their Pasadena rental home of 6 years before the tornado, and this is what it looked like immediately after it struck.
We very easily could have lost our lives that day.
Fortunately, 4 of 5 children were in school at the time.
My baby's crib is right on the other side right here.
But Thompson says one daughter is still dealing with trauma caused by what might have happened.
She's afraid to leave us. She said that she's worried that we're gonna die when she's gone at school. And it's just really hard.
The Thompsons started a GoFundMe to try and cover what renter's insurance does not, along with the cost of hotel or Airbnb stays for the family of 8. Until their recovery is complete.
Every day people can continue on with their lives while we're still struggling to get stability.
Well, as we've seen, tornadoes are possible in Southeast Texas any time of year, and sometimes they can come with very little warning, which means you need to make sure that you are able to jump into a safe place at the drop of a hat. So what does that mean? Well, if you're at home, many homes here in Southeast Texas don't have basements, which means the next alternative would be putting as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Typically, the center part of your home is your best bet. An interior hallway, even a bathroom. And if you have time, grab a bicycle helmet or maybe even a mattress. Taking the mattress off of your bed and bringing it with you to that safe spot, whether it's the bathroom or an interior hallway, adds an extra layer of protection for flying debris. Stay away from windows. Again, the most interior room of your home is going to be the safest. If you find yourself outside, it's important to lay flat and to avoid overpasses. Of course, if you can make it to shelter, and a sturdy shelter, that's your number one bet. But if you are out in an open field, make sure that you stay away from overpasses. This has proven deadly in the past. And the reason for this is because underneath an overpass, the winds from a tornado are magnified, meaning you could be ripped right from underneath that overpass and pulled into the tornado. And finally, with so many highways and in such a car-dependent area of the country, if you find yourself in a vehicle during a tornado warning and you can see that a tornado is moving in your direction, try to find shelter. If you can't get to shelter, your absolute last ditch scenario would be to find a ravine or a ditch on the side of the road, something that puts you below the rest of the ground level so that the winds from the tornado can travel over you and not suck you out. We recommend not staying in your car because if that car gets picked up by the tornado, even if you have your seatbelt on, that car could get tossed for several hundred yards or even miles depending on the strength of the storm.